Good afternoon, guys. It's Working, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin and EOS. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin, starting off with Bitcoin to the US dollar, 4-hour chart on Bitfinex, guys. And yesterday we spoke, Bitcoin was operating right below 65.40. I was pounding on this resistance area, guys. I told you if it did break above that 65.40 decisively, that it was going to be a very quick rise up to 67.50. That's exactly what we saw. Price broke above, very quickly rose up to 67.50. Immediately hit that zone, kind of small rejection, then came back up. We can see that price did break above there, not decisively. I told you I needed to see a decisive break above this zone, guys. And if that did happen, we're going to come up and test 69.50. We did not see a decisive break. Remember, I was defining decisive by a 4-hour candle that opens and closes above 67.50. Again, we saw one that closed above there, but it did not open and close. Always remember, by decisive, I mean a 4-hour candle that not just opens, not just closes, but both opens and closes above 67.50. We did not see that. Price ended up breaking right back down. This has happened many times in the past, guys. We've come up to the 67.50 zone. We either wicked above it or barely broke above by just a brief body, and then just broke right back down. It's happened numerous times. However, when that zone does break, at least historically here in the recent past, so if I look right here, we can see again strong rejection, wick, strong rejection. But when that zone does break, it's a very impulsive break, like we saw here. Coming back here again, we tried to break above, couldn't do it. Tried to break above, couldn't do it. But when it broke, it was a very impulsive break up, like we saw right here. So if we fast forward to today, guys, what are we looking at? Let's see if we can see the same type of thing. Couldn't break up, ended up breaking down, came back up, unable to break up or breaking back down, guys. And in my opinion, we may come back down and test this 67.40 again. However, if I come back and I look at let me zoom in here to the hourly. If I come here and look at the hourly, guys, on the MACD, pardon me. We look at this point, this zone right here. What do we have? We have a lower low. If we look at the same point on the chart, what do we have? We have a higher low in an uptrend, which clearly this is. That's hidden bullish divergence, and we are seeing a little bit of an uptick here, especially on the hourly chart, based on that hidden bullish divergence. Now, let's see if we can come up, possibly retest this 67.50. I think, though, more than likely, we're not really seeing that much on the RSI, a little bit, but not nearly to the degree of divergence we saw on the MACD. And it's only, we're not seeing it on the higher time frames, only on the hourly. So that tells me this might be short-lived. Again, I do think there's, let me come back here to the 4-hour chart. I do think there's a very good chance that we may come back down, test this 65.40. And if that does happen, 65.40 needs to hold, guys. If we get a bounce off 65.40, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign if this starts acting as support. If it does break back down, guys, I need to see at least this ascending trend line that I've pointed out before. We've obviously, since the beginning of September, we've created a series of higher lows. That's a bullish sign. If that does continue, that is going to be a bullish sign. But we have to wait and see if that does happen. If it does break below this ascending support line here, that's going to break that trend. And at that point, guys, I think there's a very good chance he may be coming back down and testing this 62.80. For now, guys, I want to see a nice strong bounce off of 65.40 if price does get down that low. Pardon me. As far as trade setups, I don't see any good trade setups at the moment. I can literally see market makers driving this in either direction. If I come over here and I look at, let me get rid of that. Not what I wanted to do. Sorry, guys, reloading the page here. We come over here, guys, we look at short positions. Shorts are starting to fall off the board little by little. Again, we're on the daily here, so in the last week or so, we can see shorts starting to fall off the board. However, in the last couple days, they've just been kind of consolidating, moving sideways, nothing real significant. However, if we look at long positions, longs are starting to stack in the last 2 days here, guys. We can see that longs have finally just outpaced shorts for the first time in a very long time, which tells you that retail, the majority of retail, even though it's not a large majority, the majority of retail expects price to go higher. So what does that mean? That means that market makers have a lot of incentive to bring price down. I shouldn't say a lot. I take that back. Not a lot of incentive, but market makers have incentive to bring price down. Now, there's a good chance that they may end up causing retail to go to stack further and heavier into long positions, and then at that point they'll just completely liquidate them. We'll have to wait and see. One thing is for certain, guys. If we come over here and we look at our volume is still sitting at about 5.2 billion on Bitcoin. That is very, very weak volume. It's slightly higher than what we've seen in the last couple days. But again, guys, overall, that's very weak volume. If we go back and we look at volume all the way from back in December, January, when this market was really rocking, we were getting volume, daily volume, 15, 20 billion, 25 billion. That was on a daily basis. So I've told you guys in the past, what we need to see is we need to see a daily volume on Bitcoin at or above, 8 to 10 billion on a consistent daily basis, above 8 or 10 billion, and that will let you know that new money is entering the market. Without new money entering this market, we can't have a sustainable bull run, and this thing is just the same old people switching money, changing hands, the same money changing hands between the same people back and forth, back and forth. And as I told you guys, the bigger picture, that's getting less and less. We're getting less and less guppies, basically less and less retail investors that are willing to take that money and to fall into market makers trap, and that's why we're kind of seeing that slow fizzle out, that slow drop off in the market. That's going to end one of two ways. Either that's going to end with some strong fundamental move, providing a catalyst for the market to just take off here, or possibly price falling down low enough to where retail decides and new money decides to get into the market again, and then again pushes prices back up. One thing's for certain though, guys, this little move here was definitely, in my opinion, was definitely just manipulation, trying to knock shorts off the board. I think they've done that. They've continued to do that. Now, if they do continue to push price up here, I think they're being market makers are being very careful, knowing that if they end up pushing price, especially if they push it up above 7,000 right now, then it might spark a bull run because people might start thinking this is it. New money might start entering, and if a bunch of new money starts flooding into the market makers are not going to have nearly the influence that they have over the market right now. So it's a very careful calculation between how much they manipulate this market and when. As I said, right now, guys, we are watching longs start to stack, shorts start to fall off. If that trend continues, then there's a very high probability they're going to bring price down. But right now, it's really anybody's game. Right now, we're just kind of watching, waiting to see where price ends up. I want to see a nice bounce off 65.40. If I do see a break above 67.50, I think it's going to come into the 69.50 zone, and that is the number that we have to get north of. 69.50, call it 7,000 psychological. If we can get north of that number, as I've showed you guys before, that is that golden pocket, that 618 fib level that I've showed you guys in past videos, and that would break that bearish trend that we've been watching for the last 9 months. But in the meantime, guys, I do expect price to possibly come back down, test this 65.40, and at that point, either it's going to break down or we're going to see a nice bounce up to this 67.50 again and possibly break above 67.50. I do think that'll be a very key bounce or a very key test if and when price does come back down to this 65.40 range. But for now, as far as trade setups, guys, I'm not seeing any good trade setups. I might get if price does end up coming back down to this zone, possibly expecting a bounce off this trend line here. I wouldn't even play that though. The next place I would expect a major bounce would be down here at about 6,400, 6,380, somewhere thereabouts. And if that breaks down, 6,280. So if you wanted to stack in buy orders between 6,400 and 6,280, expecting a nice bounce, you could do that, but I would have a very, very tight stop loss, guys. This is a very highly manipulated market, and market makers may drive this thing in either direction right now, so it'd be hands-off in my opinion. Come over here and look at EOS. Pardon me. EOS had this nice little rally here. I told you guys yesterday it was trying to break above this $5.57 range. It did do that. Came back up into this zone. Broke right through this 5.71 to 5.83 resistance. Broke above. I told you if it did break above that zone, we were going to come into this order block here between about 594 and 612. That's exactly what happened. We had a strong rejection. Good news is this what was resistance started acting as support, and we are consolidating now between 5.71 and 5.83. It's very interesting. I'm noticing a pattern here with EOS. If I kind of zoom out, what do I see? If I go from this prior swing high all the way back here in August, swing high, swing low, what do we have? We can see that the swing high came up right here, almost, especially if I come over here to the daily, you can see it a lot better. We had almost a perfect hit right off the 786 fib. It wicked right through it here on the daily, but almost a perfect retracement right to the 786 fib. Why do I point that out? We come over here and we look at the next swing high, which was right here. I go swing high, swing low again, right off this wick. Right down to the bottom of the swing low. What do we have? No, let me kind of extend it out there. What do we have? Price came up. Almost again a perfect hit right off the 786 fib right here. Very, very relevant. And then of course it broke right back down just like it did here. What do we have this time? Let me zoom in here to the 4 hour. You can see it a little bit better as we're kind of zooming in as these patterns are getting smaller, I should say. We go again, swing high, swing low. What do we have? Right there on the wick. Again, a perfect hit right there almost at the 786 fib level. So if history is any guide, recent history anyway, we should end up getting a nice break back, or price should break back down pretty solidly. However, we're not seeing that yet. So let's see if we can break that trend. We still have plenty of time for it to happen, but let's see if we can break that trend. I'm looking to see price. If it does end up breaking down, I want to see it find some support, and this order block right here at about 5.57, this support area right here should act as support. If that does break down, it'll be a very quick drop to 526 in my opinion, at least at 526 in my opinion. But let's see if we can stay consolidating in this 5.71 to 5.83. That's going to be an extremely bullish sign. If we zoom out here, guys, the other thing I wanted to point out, as I've got these big lines drawn out here. What am I doing? I'm pointing out that we have a series since early August. We have a series. Sorry about that. A series of lower highs and a series of higher lows. So clearly creating this very large wedge pattern here. And as you get close to any kind of a wedge, what do you expect as you get towards the apex? So what do you expect as we get right into this zone here? We expect a major breakout in one direction or another. As price gets squeezed, the tighter it gets, the closer to the apex, the more likely the breakout. Now, this thing could go in either direction, guys. All this is telling me is that we are ripe for a larger move here in the next few weeks. We'll wait and see if that ends up playing out, but we are certainly ripe for a larger move in the next few weeks, and that is what the chart is suggesting at the moment. Now, again, whether that's up, whether that's down, it's hands off at this point, guys. I can see the market going in either direction. I know that's frustrating to hear. You want to know, is it going up? Is it going down? I honestly, this is so manipulated, and volume is so weak. Whales can bring price any direction they want at this moment, guys. So all we can do is wait for a setup and execute on that setup. If you're going long, you want a dollar cost average in right now, it's not a bad idea. And if price ends up taking off and you didn't go all in on here, that's okay, as long as you didn't lose money. The key is not to lose money. If you do enter into a dollar cost average and price ends up dropping, you can take advantage of that lower price. And the truth is, long term, guys, long term, I mean, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's not really going to matter whether you bought in here at at $5.50 or $6 range, or you bought in at $4. It's really not going to make that much of a difference long term. So again, if you're planning on holding this long term, sure, go ahead and dollar cost average in. If you're more of a day trader, then I would wait for a better setup, and I'm not seeing a good setup at the moment. 526, I might start to get interested. I've still got buy orders, and I'm not saying it's ever going to get down here, guys, but I've got buy orders still stacked between $4 and $3.50. If price ever, I do believe that if it does break down, this is a very likely floor. Down here between $4 and $3.50. If we go in the past here, if we look back in December, that was a very good demand zone. We can see that was tested back here, very strong rejection. So there's a lot of buy orders sitting down in this area. I do think if it ever gets down into this area, there's going to be a very strong bounce. Again, I don't mean to spread any FUD. I'm not saying it's ever going to happen. I'm just saying, guys, always keep fiat on the side so you can take advantage of lower prices if that comes to you. And if I end up missing out, I'm okay with that. There's going to be a lot of opportunity going forward. I don't have to capitalize on every single trade. I know that hindsight's 20/20. Hindsight's always 20/20. But I know I'm not going to lose money either, and I will be able to take advantage of any opportunities that come to me in the future. And that's the key. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I would appreciate an upvote, resteam, or a like if you have enjoyed this content. Just lets me know you want me to continue to make these videos. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Working. Signing out.